Well folks, this is it, the final build of pack number 11, and right as the series comes to an end, my cold is pretty much gone, typical, and this time around we're doing a build which I'd kind of played with the idea of for a while, because back in the day I used to do this series in Gran Turismo 6 called, I think it was something like X Tunes, where I would pretty much fully tune a vehicle, usually a supercar, and just make it like the most extreme version it could be. There's some DNA of that in here as well, but I wanted to kind of make a vehicle which blurs the lines, a fictional car, of course, a Corvette ZRX, as I call it, which blurs the lines between a road car and a race car. Essentially the Corvette equivalent of something like the Ferrari XX program, but which you could technically take on the street. So it's pretty much a track car, but technically has road tyres. So you'll see in a second I've got sports tyres on it just to keep that kind of road-going ability to it. I will say the reason why I've left this one until last is because this is the one out of all 10, which is definitely not forgiving. This car does not want to be your friend, it does not want to help you, it demands respect, and if you use it with respect, it's tremendously quick. It's a proper weapon, especially for under 750 points as it is, but if you hoon it around, it will go straight off the track, because it's a savagely quick car. As you can see, the specs are pretty crazy too, 1250 kilos, 775 horsepower, and again, that's on sports tyres. Now, of course, if you put it on racing tyres, you will make your life a lot easier, but I wanted it to be more of a challenge. That was the whole point of the car. I wanted it to be savage. I wanted it to be more of a professional level machine, as a few of these other special projects that I've done have been in the past. So as far as the build, you want your stage 1 weight. I've upgraded it from medium tyres to softs, which is technically, you know, a bit of an advantage in your favour, so take what you can get. We've got the stage 2 weight, power restrictor and ballast are available, but not necessarily entirely used. Of course, we'll jump in a second to the tuning and you'll see what I mean. We've got the fully customised computer, and spoiler alert, that's actually the only part in terms of horsepower that you need to fit. I fitted a bunch of other things to see which setup I was most happy with, in terms of different exhausts, different intakes, all that kind of stuff. I ultimately decided to leave it on 775 horses, so the only thing you need to do that is just that fully customised computer. We've got the fully customised diff as well. Of course, stage 3 weight. I've not opted for the body rigidity because, as you can see, it doesn't make any difference to the point level, so I'll leave it up to you. If you want to go for it, it does, of course, tie into that kind of track day image, but it's each to their own in terms of if you want to do it or not. As far as the racing stuff, like I said, you don't actually need the filter, the exhaust and all that. You do, however, of course, want your racing pads, the suspension, the clutch and flywheel, the fully customised transmission, stage 4 weight. I do have racing soft tyres purchased, but I'm not actually using them. And then as far as the extreme stuff, we've got the steering angle adapter and the carbon ceramic brakes. The reason why I've gone for the carbons is there's no real advantage over the racing discs, and they are more expensive. They just look cool. You know, they kind of suit that supercar style image. And then as far as the ultimate section, the stage 5 weight is applied, as is the carbon prop. So that's it for the build. Now I've done 2 visual versions of this car, because obviously this is one of my own designs. I've done a white version, which you can see here with the matte black or kind of carbon effect down the centre, and I've done the essentially opposite version. I've done a black version. Both of the colours, if I recall correctly, I think were Chevy white and Chevy black, or like a Chevy charcoal, so still has the matte black down the middle, but I swapped the ZRX logos to white in some cases, and that one actually has a little extra bonus, which is a stripe on the wing as well, just to make the black version a little bit different to the white one. So as far as the build, of course, we've got the sports softs fitted for the suspension, 100mm on the front, 110 on the back. Again, sounds like a big difference, but if you take a look, it doesn't really look that much different. It certainly isn't a snowplow, which is the point. As far as the anti-roll, that's on 5, 30 and 40 for the dampers, quite high on the springs, 3.15. As far as the camber, that is also race car level, 3 degrees front and rear. As far as the toe, we towed out, 0.10 on the front, in 0.30 on the rear, so quite a hefty amount of toe on the front and the back. As far as the diff, 15, 30 and 30. Everyone has their own preference pretty much when it comes to diff settings and diff tuning, so if you find it too challenging to drive, well, that's kind of the point, but if you do want to, change it up and try different things, that's absolutely fine. You could always just come back and try this again if you don't like the other way. As far as the gearbox, it's fairly close ratios for a car with nearly 800 horsepower, but I took it on Route X just for the sake of it, and you can still get up around 220, 230 miles an hour out of this thing, so it certainly isn't slow, even with the the 350km auto set. As far as the ballast, I've added 55 kilos just to bring us up to 1250. I've left that right in the middle because it's already got that nice 50-50 split. As far as the ECU, like I said, that was the only power thing which I fitted, and just for the sake of my OCD and because I think 775 is a nice looking amount of horsepower, I've just removed that down to, or reduced it even down to 97%. As far as the downforce, that is set as high as possible, because of course, and then as far as the rest, you can see that the stuff that is fitted is basically just the suspension, the brakes, the grip, that kind of side of things, with the horsepower all left off. So as you can see, it nestles quite nicely, right under 750 points, so you could potentially use it for some like hypercar events for under 800 points, or maybe some 750 points online, etc. So naturally, you want to see what it can do. A car with 775 horses, 1250 kilos, and sports tyres around Laguna Seca sounds like a bit of a challenge. Well, it definitely is. That, as I said, is the whole point. Now, there is kind of a cheat code for using this car, and it does make it a little bit too easy, but for those who want to use it but don't necessarily have as many hours in the game to fully master a car like this, the one cheat code is just don't use full throttle. And it really is as simple as that. When you exit a corner, even when you're out of the corner, because again, you've got a huge amount of power and torque, roll onto the throttle. Use that 50-60% throttle as your best friend, and the car is very easy to drive. It really is only if you fully open up the car that it starts to just rampantly wheel spin. Again, that was the vibe I was going for, and I wanted it to feel, as I seem to recall saying about my signature Sidewinder build for the Porsche Cayman, I wanted it to kind of have a little bit of what I love about the SSC Ultimate Aero in the older Forza games. It's such a tremendously challenging car, just an absolute hot rod of a supercar to drive, rampant wheel spin, crazy difficult to drive for beginners, but when you master it, such a rapid car and such a competitive one, deceptively so. Likewise with this, of course if you put it on racing tyres it's going to be even easier, but with those sports tyres really accepting the challenge that I've laid out for you, it's a car which you can actually do a lot with. All it demands is respect. And if you give it that respect, it's tremendously quick. So I hope that you folks have enjoyed Special Projects Pack number 11. Pretty eclectic mix, which is pretty much what I always try and go for. And of course, if you haven't checked out the ones from earlier in the week, feel free to do so. I'll see you next time though with more, and for now, thanks for watching.